a shame. Set your minds free, no locks and chains. Do what you love, roll the dice. 50-50, we cold as ice. One thing cold, but a penny turn red. Can't let that shit go in my head, war gaming.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Hobby Homies. I'm Shane. Today I'm hanging out with our resident DM of the Discord, Oliver.
Hello.
We're going to be talking about some RPGs that he loves. Myself and Fox included are very, very new to RPGs. Ollie's run us through a couple now, maybe three different ones, four different ones maybe. But yeah, you've brought in 5 of your favorites.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I guess when I was thinking about my 5 favorite RPGs, to me it was kind of a hard thing to separate out between the RPGs that I really love in terms of the mechanics and how the RPGs play, but then also it's really entangled with the history of that RPG to me and what it means and the stories and the campaigns that we've played previously.
Yeah, nice. Awesome. The ones we've played was... The first one, I think, was the Star Wars RPG.
Yep, the Star Wars Saga edition.
Yeah, that was an eye-opener because I've never played any kind of RPG before. So that was a lot of fun. And then after that, what did we do? We did a couple of 40k ones.
Yep, yeah. There was a few that we did in the Discord with a few people.
Yep.
Played a couple of those, and then we did a little one.
Yeah, an Inquisitor-based one.
Where we did that for a few sessions.
Yep.
And then we have kind of been maybe doing a few sessions of a root RPG.
Sometimes maybe.
Which is the story of RPGs.
Yes, that's right. Yep. Doesn't matter how big the group is, you can never get the whole group together at one time. Yep. So, what's comes in? Are you starting with number 5?
Yeah. We'll go least favorite to most favorite.
So build up at the end.
Yeah, but I think that, really all of them are pretty good.
Considering you've got
6 million RPGs out there.
And you've got like 5 million of them at your place.
I think so. It feels like that. But also, I've just played so many of them. And so many that I've played a session of. And then
just
never done again.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I feel like the honourable mention for that is I have a Dragon Age RPG, which I love. And I've just played it once.
Yep. Fair enough. Yep.
Don't know why. Just too many other RPGs. But yeah, so number 5, my 5th favourite RPG. Any RPG list would be completely incomplete without it. And that is Dungeons and Dragons.
D&D.
D&D, the OG.
The grandfather of role-playing games.
I feel like it is the 40k of RPGs.
Okay, it's the one that everyone knows.
Yeah, literally, you say, I play role-playing games. People will be like, like Dungeons and Dragons, or something like that. And it's also it's the first RPG that almost everybody plays. It's the gateway RPG. So really, the two that I've got are 3.5 edition. And 5th edition.
Okay.
Because 4th edition, not a fan.
No.
But 3.5 is the first RPG that I played big time.
Okay.
So the year was 2000.
What a year.
the
TikTok.
We'd all survived the millennium bug. Everything was going well.
The Terminators didn't get us.
I was 8, and for one of my mates' 9th birthdays, his dad ran a session of AD&D.
Oh, that's awesome.
2nd edition Dungeons and Dragons.
That is so awesome that your mate's dad did that. I think my mate's parents wouldn't have even known, or they would have thought maybe it was, something to do with the satanic panic that happened.
Yeah, well, that was I don't know, I feel like D&D had probably been out at that point for 20, 15, 20 years. And he was that was kind of his thing. He was, I guess, if I think back, he was probably 20 maybe when it came out, and probably got into it at that stage. And ran it for us, and I was like, oh crap, I love this. This is the greatest thing ever. I want to do this. And then at that point it was what can I get? And what was out at that point was 3.5 edition Dungeons and Dragons.
And what did you need for that? Was it just that one book? Is that all you needed? Or did
there was 3 books. So the one I have here is the Player's Handbook. So that was the rules for all your characters.
Okay.
Then you had, and still the same with 5th edition today.
Yep.
You then had a monster manual, which had all the creatures and things like that you could fight, and then the Dungeon Master's Guide that had like rules for world building and magic items and things like that.
As a player, the handbook was all you would need. As a DM, you'd need all 3.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then got those books.
Yep.
And then played D&D 2-3 times a week at lunch at school for about 5 years.
Yeah, awesome. That's awesome. So you'd have your day, whether it be like a Monday or a Thursday or whatever. Lunchtime, where would you meet? The library, the computer room, or wherever you had room,
the
a table outside?
Literally anywhere.
Yep. Nice.
And so was like this gateway to RPG, but it was also like the first RPG that I played, and I've played, I don't know, I feel like probably hundreds of campaigns.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is so awesome.
Yeah, and made me fall in love with role playing. But now, we got into 5th edition, got those rules, really love the rules as far as D&D goes. But I'm just like, there's a lot of things about D&D that I don't like.
Yeah, okay. All right, give us some, because we are talking about games you love, and it made the fact. What about it don't you like?
What I don't like about it is it has a lot of things in it that, as I matured as a sort of an RPG, DM, I've played probably about 12 sessions of RPGs in my life.
You DM everything.
It came to have these like things in it that I grew to like not like as much. Probably the number one thing, and the thing that a lot of RPGs that are based off Dungeons and Dragons have is a level-based system. Where it's like, you fight a certain number of monsters, you go up a level, you get a certain amount better, and therefore you then fight a certain harder monster. Like at level 1, you fight kobolds and goblins. At level 2, you fight orcs. Whatever, and if you fight something that you're under-leveled for, it's really mechanically hard. Or vice versa. If you fight something that's under-leveled, it's mechanically very easy. And like, there are ways you can combat that, but it does make it feel a lot more like a video game to me.
That's right. When you're talking about level 1s, trying to fight level 10 things, the first thing I'm thinking about is like World of Warcraft, when you happen to stumble into the wrong zone and you get your ass handed to you by just some trash mobs. So you would choose to go away from a level-based system and just have everything on par.
Yeah, I think like what I did was like, played that a lot to begin with, and that was all I was used to. And then I really got into like, okay, man, I really prefer an RPG where it doesn't matter how long you've been playing the RPG. Some goon can pull out a gun at point blank range and shoot you, and you're in danger. It's not like I've been playing the RPG now for 12 sessions, and so the commoner who's got a gun, he doesn't do anything. He shoots me and it bounces off.
Because that just wouldn't happen.
Exactly. I kind of like got drawn more to like wanting to tell us some bit more realistic story. But still, I mean, D&D is the classic fantasy storytelling system.
Absolutely. Ah, that's awesome. I'm glad that the grandfather made the list.
Well, I couldn't not. I couldn't not. It would be wrong. So number 4, unfortunately, I don't have the actual PDF copy. Sorry, I have the PDF copy of. I don't have the actual hard copy. But it is Star Wars Saga Edition.
Yes.
That one we played. Really a great like intro to RPGing again. It's based off of D&D. So it used that same D20 system, that same level-based system. If you played D&D, it made perfect sense. And that's when it came out. It came out after 3.5 D&D, but before fourth, and it was like 3.75.
So would you say they improved on a couple of things from 3.5?
Oh, absolutely. It had like, they started to add in some things that you could see, they've based that on 3.5. They picked up on some of the things that people didn't like or had difficulty with or caused problems,
Nice.
But that was released because it was Star Wars. That's why I loved it. I was a Star Wars kid. Loved Star Wars. Watched the OG trilogy a million times as a kid until the VHS was burnt out.
I was going to say the same thing. I reckon I did the same thing. Just have it on almost on repeat. So so we played that. So you obviously DM'd. Myself, Fox, and Final from Belgium. Which we made the time zone work, which was great. I think it was early morning his time. So he was getting up to play this with us, which was awesome. So Fox and I had. I can't speak for him, but I'm 99% sure he'd never played any RPG before. Don't know about Final, but it worked so well. It was so easy to pick it up, and it would work. Again, some like we'd can't like I might miss one, Fox would miss one, Final would miss one. We'd always make it work and be able to catch up each next session, which was great. It was a lot of fun. So many moments I just remember of that. Just some I missed, some I didn't miss. Final dragging my nearly dead corpse out of a hallway.
Yeah. And that's part of what make RPGs so great. It's those stories that you think about, years later. Like, I can still remember crazy things that happened in campaigns 15 years ago. And we went, like the guys that I played with back then that I still know will be like, oh man, do you remember when we did that? And it was crazy, or like hilarious or, so it was so cool to be able to play Star Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, there's other Star Wars RPGs out. There's other ones that have come out. There's ones that were out before that. That was, the one that was out at the time when I was really exploring for something outside of D&D. Something sci-fi, something Star Wars, all those things that I really liked, but it's the same system. So it was like, okay, I know exactly what I'm doing. I roll a d20 to hit, blah, 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 blah.
Did it feel like a reskin of D&D?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But it was different enough that you weren't thinking like, oh, I'm just playing D&D.
Okay.
You're like, I'm playing Star Wars. I'm playing Star Wars.
The world enough was different enough. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
being based on D&D,
suffered
from that same problem that D&D suffers from in my mind, which is that, Stormtrooper, you're level 1, pretty hard fight. You're level 6, Stormtrooper. He's dead.
Take on 10 of them.
And again, for me, it's because primarily being a DM, I feel like it railroads me into how I design my campaign. I have to know my players are a certain level, and so they can fight a certain thing. And I can modify, characters and creatures and things, enemies, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to then, particularly if you want to come up with stuff on the fly. Which is, a lot of DMing is like you prep this great, cool thing. There's this awesome ship that the wreck. You think, oh man, this is going to be great. These guys are going to go in, they're going to explore it. They were transporting a Rancor, and that was trapped in the cargo hold, and so they're going to have to fight that. And then they fly up to the ship, and they're like, oh shit, that looks spooky. We're not going in. We keep flying.
So you spent hours and hours creating this one path for your players to go like, nah, let's just go that way instead.
Yeah, exactly. And so, for me, my DMing now, having done it for so long, is let's come up with some cliff notes of what ideas of what might happen, and I can create a few characters that I can have. But really, a lot of it is coming up with it on the fly. And so having the ability to just pop in characters and without having to spend time up leveling them or scaling them down is so helpful.
So you could have a few up your sleeve, and maybe even a few worlds or a few locations up your sleeve, and you could be like, all right, well, my players aren't going into that ship that I designed, but they want to go to this planet. I'll just pull a planet out of my sleeve. That you've already sort of pre-generated.
But not having the level system made that easier. But up until having played RPGs, then probably for 12 or so years at that. No, maybe not. I think about it, maybe more like 8 or so.
Okay.
Before I started to encounter these RPGs that didn't have level systems. And then I played a few and I was like, I like this. I want this. This is actually what I like. But back in those days, it was hard to get access to RPGs because I didn't quite understand how to get, can go to drive through RPG. It was like I go up to the local hobby shop and what RPGs do they have on the shelves? Bit like 40k. What do they got? D&D. And they've got all the D&D and there's not much else. And I knew there was other stuff out there, but it was hard to access it.
Did you find yourself going to more at this point, was there D&D campaign books that they were releasing frequently? So would you instead pick up one of those? Okay.
Source books, or I've got a book on how to build a spaceship for Star Wars, or something like that.
Nice.
So yeah, and then we move on to number 3.
Number 3.
So
I can see a Fantasy Flight logo there.
Yes. So this was big.
Yeah.
This was big news.
Yep.
I want to say year 10, year 11, somewhere around there.
Yep. So we're looking, what's that, 2008 or 9?
So by then, I'm like an absolute 40k junkie. You know, like I'm loving 40k. I've been playing it. You know, I started when I was 8 as well. So I've been playing it for years. Love 40k, and at that point, my mates and I had been doing a bit of RPGing in 40k through amending the rules for Inquisitor, which was a tabletop game.
Yeah,
we kind of like amended it to make our own RPG because we really wanted to play an RPG in the 40k universe.
Yeah.
Then we found out, hang on, Black Library is making a 40k RPG. And we were like, you know, big news. This is big news.
Yep.
And it ended up being an absolute catastrophic collapse of epic proportions, which basically Black Library did this. It was something like Black Library did the initial print run, and then they decided to close their game publishing, so there wasn't going to be a second printing, and no one could get copies, and they were going for a fortune. And then, like 6 months later, they'd sold the licensing to Fantasy Flight Games.
Okay. Yeah.
And so it got reprinted, and we were like, okay, this is cool. We can get it.
Yeah.
But that game was Dark Heresy.
Dark Heresy, which is the one that we played. Yes.
Yeah, so we played Dark Heresy.
Yep.
And they then, over the years, came out with a number of alternate ways to play. So Dark Heresy was playing as a group of acolytes working for an Inquisitor. Solving crimes and catching heretics and things like that. And then they released a few different versions. There was one where you could play as a rogue trader. So you had a spaceship and you flew around space. There was Death Watch, which we played in the Discord once, where you played as a space Death Watch, space marine kill
we
team.
played with Rad and Moose and Burnsy and a couple others too. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. But that was awesome. That was so cool.
And then there was Only War, playing as Imperial Guardsmen. But the one that I brought, the one that makes my number 3, is Black Crusade.
Black Crusade. Hell yeah.
So Black Crusade was, I mean, I liked all of these Fantasy Flight RPGs. They were all pretty darn cool. They were all 40k. You know, like that. It would have taken a lot to screw up a 40k RPG in my mind. But Black Crusade was one where you played as Chaos. You played as a Chaos warband that basically was just getting up to shenanigans. And all kind of in it for their own gain to try and ascend to demonhood, basically. But I loved it so much because, I mean, the mechanics of the all of the Fantasy Flight ones I loved. Right? That was kind of my first experience of this. Yes, there's a character progression. Yes, your characters get better, but it's not like just because I've been playing the game for ages, my character is completely immune to being shot. You know, maybe over the course of the game, I go from having 12 wounds to 18 wounds. You know, over many sessions of playing. But Black Crusade, in particular, was cool because it was this unique, like, you're not the good guys.
No, you're
the bad guys.
It is Hans, are we the baddies?
So, and like, it was just always crazy. You know, every session, like, the campaigns never ran long. Because it was so batshit insane. That everyone, like, ended up turning on each other, or like, you know, getting like or just get burnt out because like you've all just like, it's just been so insane, and you've like drawn the Inquisition down on you or something like that. But it was just a cool, different concept. So played quite a few of those. Played a lot of Dark Heresy with the you know, being the acolytes. The other ones, Rogue Trader was alright. Only War and Death Watch I kind of liked, but they became very like combat heavy.
Yeah, I noticed that with the Death Watch one. It was like how many orcs we were fighting at the time, but it had cool things. Like I remember trying to cast a psychic power because I was a librarian. Ultraman's a librarian, and I summoned a demon prince.
yes, the perils of the war.
So I did the perils when I tried summoning. I tried just doing some psychic. I can't remember what it was, and
Smite or something.
Maybe I just tried to smite an orc war boss or something like that, and it turned into a demon prince. But that's just crazy.
Yeah, and so like that kind of like playing those ones, you know, ultimately a lot of the time I played what my mates wanted to play.
Yeah.
You know, what I could get players for.
Yeah.
But that was like, I was like, oh, yeah, okay. I kind of like these ones that are more intrigue based, like a little bit more maybe like role-playing heavy, less like combat.
Which
was
less very much Dark Heresy. I remember we only had a handful of combat encounters, but we had probably 6 or 7 actual sessions of it. There was so much there of building the world and building the scene and what we were actually doing.
Yeah.
And then there was only a couple of times where we would fight, which was really cool. Like someone like me that only played a handful by this point, it was fun trying to learn that RPG element, that role-playing element, not just a virtual tabletop game or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So. And that's, look, some people like that, you know, like when I was talking before about D&D, there's D&D 4th edition, which was like, played like a tabletop game. And some people like that. But for me, this kind of was over time increasingly teaching me what I liked. And like the reason really now I know that I love being a DM so much is I just like telling stories for people. And kind of like telling it, you know, it's more interesting to tell a story that's got all this intrigue and things like that in it than it does to just be like, all right, you hacked and 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 then they were all dead.
Which was very much like the Deathwatch one was.
But again, you know, like some people like that.
It was still a lot of fun.
So it's just like, you know, finding what you like in an RPG. You know, I feel like people probably coming from tabletop games and things like that probably look at something like that, like a Deathwatch one, and go, "That's really cool." You know, it's like I'm playing as a space marine.
It's like first person.
Yeah, exactly.
Nah, awesome. So that was number 3.
That was number 3.
Oh, number 2.
So number 2
is a big
old stack. So this was
Really
actually mentioned in the Discord just the other day.
Was it?
And then I got myself super confused and had to go back and look online to figure out what I was actually talking about. So this is a game which at the time was by White Wolf Games. Called World of Darkness.
All right. I've never heard of World of Darkness. So what is the universe?
World of Darkness is like a dark, gothic, modern setting.
Okay. Modern as in like very, very current, or modern as in 1900s?
Like now.
Okay.
Like
right now.
It's basically, I mean, there was settings in different times and things like that, but it was like, you know, it's very much like, you know, gives off like those kind of like, you know, Van Helsing sort of vibes and things like that, but in the modern era. But basically, World of Darkness is a really old system. Been around for a long time. There's like these source books or you know, alternate versions of the game, like Vampire the Masquerade.
I've seen that on Steam.
That's like that's probably I would say probably the most famous one. Vampire the Masquerade. But about when I was starting into RPGs, they did a refresh of the whole range into what we then called New World of Darkness, but I now believe is called Chronicles of Darkness, because they've gone back to the original World of Darkness and done more editions of that. That makes sense. So this one hasn't been adjusted since then. There's been no second edition or anything like that.
And when did this come out, this particular one?
2002.
There might be a printing date somewhere on
probably
there.
Good old paper.
The art is incredible. Like just from the
I mean, I don't know if we can see it on the screen, but it's
very dark.
Very dark. That's a summary of the game. You know, it's a world of darkness. Let's have a look. Credits. 2004.
2004.
White Wolf Publishing. So World of Darkness was like this system that you could use as a base to tell like these gothic inspired stories in the modern world. But really it was the source books that made it. So there was a whole series of ones, one where you could play as werewolves, one where you could play as vampires, one where you could play as these changelings, which were like these basically children that were stolen by fairies and ended up being like kind of mutated and strange. Or one where you played as Prometheans, which were like, you know, basically like Frankenstein's monster.
Cool.
You know, like you were created people.
So would you ever play as vampire hunters or people that hunt these creatures?
Possibly. So the two source books that we played the most of, we very rarely played World of Darkness because on its own it's just kind of a system, which wasn't that cool. But the two ones that we played the most of, definitely we had Vampire the Requiem.
Look at that! Oh,
nice and sparkly. So that was, playing as vampires.
Yep.
And like, it was like, it was so cool.
Yeah,
like I feel like it's like a super, super narrative driven game.
Yep.
Like the rules are quite abstract in that there's not that many like specific, like if this happens then.
Yeah,
it's more like, this is a kind of guide. There's a few stats. You roll some dice. You kind of see what happens.
Left to the interpretation of the DM? Or?
Yeah. And in conjunction with the player.
Okay.
We've been playing Root a bit, which is kind of in that same vein, where it's like, what do you think happened? Based on how much success you got, what do you think happened? Yeah. So Vampire the Requiem was really cool,
Nice.
Everyone thought vampires were cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Bloody oath they were. Especially at that time, at that point in history.
Yeah, absolutely.
So 2004.
Yeah. But the big one, the one that I liked the most out of that was this one here, which is Hunter the Vigil.
Hunter the
Vigil. Hunter the Vigil was basically about being a hunter.
Okay.
So this was like, you could hunt the vampires.
Nice.
You could hunt the werewolves.
Yes.
And, at this time, there's this show out, I'm not sure if you've heard of it, they did a few seasons, called Supernatural.
Maybe. Yeah, I might have seen the thumbnail somewhere.
So, like, that was like this show that we all kind of loved at that time. And it was like, holy shit.
Yep.
It's the role-playing version of that.
Yeah.
And it was just a really cool one.
Nice.
Again, all based on that same system, so super abstract, not like that real specific rules. Brutal. Brutal combat. Like, like you're a human, you're going up against a werewolf. It doesn't matter how long you've been playing it. If you screw up, you can die. Real easy.
So would you find with that kind of system like that, like you're going to avoid combat at all costs? Or for the most part?
I think so, but then like one of the, particularly with like Vampire the Requiem, like you might avoid combat a lot, as much as possible. Hunter was this game that kind you forced you into it.
Okay.
Like the crux of the game is kind of like combat driven. It's a lot of tension. It built, you might have 4 or 5 sessions building to a fight, but it's all about that fight. It's all about, we have to kill this vampire. We have to kill this werewolf. So it's all building to that. But really, the players are spending all that time trying to figure out, how can we maximize our advantage? Can we surprise it? Can we just kill it, hit it with a car? Whatever. Something that really makes it so that combat isn't as threatening. And that was, doing a lot of that was really part of that growth into like, okay, yeah, cool, that's what I like. I like this one that it's rewarding them coming up with a unique way to do it rather than just rolling dice.
Fair.
And then numero uno.
Number one.
Numero uno is again one that I have in PDF form, so we don't get the actual beautiful hard copy of. But it is Traveller. Which is one that we are gearing up to start playing.
Yes, we were. That's right.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
I've just got to finish getting ready for it.
Oh, yes. That's right.
Traveller is like a super, like one of the, I think of it as like one of the OG RPGs. I feel like it's like 1986, 87 or something like that. The first edition of it came out, and then there's been a number of editions since.
Wow.
The one that we're playing, or we're going to play, is what's often referred to as like, the company that makes it is Mongoose. Mongoose Traveller version 2. But man, like when I found this game, I was like flicking through the rule book and I was like, holy shit, this game's like crazy. It's like, it's very narrative. It's very much like that flavor of game that I love. But it's like almost like the opposite of World of Darkness.
Okay.
So there is like a rule for everything. Instead of it being all up to like interpreting basically what you want off this check, you're more doing, going through charts, looking at this, which to me, I actually enjoyed it. I certainly think it's a kind of game that probably doesn't appeal to a lot of people. But I think it's a sci-fi RPG based in the far, far future. It's where basically you are this like crew of a ship and you fly around and you do jobs.
I think
when I think of it, one of my favorite TV shows of all time is Firefly.
Yep.
And I think it makes me think of Firefly.
Okay.
One of the introductions to the first few episodes of Firefly had a line in it that was, a ship would bring you work.
Yep.
A gun would help you keep it.
Okay. Yeah.
A captain's job was simple: find a crew, find a job, keep flying.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's what really, I feel like, summarizes Traveller.
Yep.
You've got this. You're the captain of this ship, or your crew. If you've got multiple players, you're all the crew of this ship.
Yep.
And you're basically just like trying to get from one catastrophic situation to the next. There's something's happened to the ship. How are we going to afford to repair it?
Yep.
Typically, to buy a ship, you have to get into crippling debt, and you have to service that debt, or the bank comes to repossess your ship. So it's a bit real, but I think that the other thing that made me think of it is like when we played, when we first were introduced to parsecs.
Oh yeah,
I picked up parsecs, and I looked at parsecs, and the first thing I thought was like, holy crap. This is like a tabletop version of Traveller.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost identical to Traveller.
Yeah.
Even to the extent of, like, there's all the charts and things like that.
I wonder if Ivan was inspired by Traveller, or if it's something that he's played in the past to bring parsecs to life. But, yeah.
Yeah, so I love that. And I loved, like, it's just... There's all these systems for, like, generating worlds and systems and trade. Like, if you buy on a certain world, how much will that be worth on a different world?
Yep.
And it's just this super open system that I love, but it requires an enormous amount of bookkeeping.
Okay, yeah, fair.
Truly enormous, because you might have hundreds of worlds which you generate.
Yeah,
and they're like there's a system for procedurally generating them.
Oh right,
so you just like can procedurally generate all these worlds, and you can fly there and things like that.
Yep.
But yeah, I just loved that idea that it's super open. Like you can just create a crew, create a ship, and then you kind of like, what do we do?
Yeah.
And like for me, it was like, well, what do they do?
Yep.
I can be quite reactive. If I'm DMing that, I can just kind of look at what gets procedurally generated and kind of come up with a story.
All right, this is what you're doing.
Yeah, all right, so what world are we starting on? We're starting on like a backwater world, okay? Or are we starting on this world that we've generated that's like a super civilized, developed hive world? That's a crazy different start to the campaign. And it's going to go in two completely different directions. And I think it's probably an RPG that if I picked up earlier on, I would have been like, oh, cool, no thank you.
Oh, really?
It's too much.
Yeah, okay.
It would have probably been too much for me. But having played RPGs for a long time, by the time that I found it, I was like, okay, cool. I like this. Like, I can be reactive. I can come up with stuff, relatively on the fly and things like that. But yeah, I don't know why I love it so much. I don't know. Because I do like things that are quite rules intensive. That does sometimes interest me. Probably I'm lucky in the sense that I can remember a lot of those rules. I don't feel like so overwhelmed by like, oh, hang on, I have to check the book. Like if you had to check the book all the time, it'd probably get a bit monotonous.
And I imagine flipping between pages and pages, or you'd have just hundreds of bookmarks throughout, or tabs.
But I think about it often. I think, why is this my favorite RPG? And I've played it a lot, and we've had some pretty cool stories in it and things like that. But not as much as other RPGs. Certainly not as much as like those Fantasy Flight 40k ones. Played way more of that.
And
I ultimately feel like it's probably just down to that. It's like playing Firefly.
Okay.
And there's this like, I just love that kind of freedom to just do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's such a cool concept, and interesting to know that had you have found it earlier, would have been a no, would have been a miss me with that. So that's awesome. I guess by the time you did find it, you knew what kind of DM you were, and you knew how you liked to run your ship. So yeah. Nah, that's awesome. If you had to pick, let's say, okay, the viewer right now wants to start DMing, what is the system to start on? Given your experience with everything, where you started, would you do it all over again with the same kind of thing?
D&D.
D&D. There you go. D&D. If you want to DM, start with D&D, then look at Traveller.
I just think that it's a system that is so accessible. the the amount of money that they pump into it.
Yeah.
They make a system that's easy to understand. You read the book, you go, okay, this is cool. This is how it works.
Yeah.
It's there's so much support for it.
Yeah.
You can go online and you can watch hop on Discord and watch people streaming it.
Yeah, yeah.
And often it's D&D.
Yeah.
Because it's so because it's so common.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, Twitch.
Yeah,
that's the one.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sure there's Discord.
probably you can watch,
like
but
ours.
but yeah, I think that it's because it's so well known.
Yep.
There's so much material out there.
Yep.
For it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that almost like that level-based system makes it easier to DM in the first place.
Okay.
Because you know, like, all right, if I build an encounter,
Yep.
it should be fairly balanced
Yep.
for my players.
Yep.
Because one of the things that you can stumble into early on is be like, I'm going to build this encounter. And if it's not like a level-based one where you fight a certain thing at a certain level, you're
Yep.
like, this should be a cool encounter.
Yeah.
Oh, my whole party is dead.
Yes. And I imagine as the DM, that is what you have tried to avoid doing?
Yeah, I think so. So,
Yeah.
DMing is about knowing your players. It's about knowing what they want to
Yep.
get out of it. Mm-hmm. It's about knowing what you want to get out of it.
Yep.
Because you have to know that in order to find it rewarding.
Yep.
If you're running a campaign that you don't enjoy running,
Yep.
why are you running it?
Yeah.
Are you just running it?
absolutely.
Are you just running it then to be nice to your mates or something
Yeah.
like that? If
Just
so,
'cause
cool.
your friends want to play.
If
Yeah.
so, cool. Is then the reason that you're running it just because you want to be nice to your mates
Yeah.
and run what they
Yeah.
want to run?
That's fine if that's the reason.
Yeah, but back to your kind of original question. It is kind of about trying to make it challenging
Yep.
without making it too hard.
Yep.
I guess as a DM, there's that typical thing of you have a DM screen.
Yeah.
So I guess the ultimate rule of being a DM is that you can lie.
Yeah. This is when you can lie to your friends.
Yeah, I mean, it's
okay.
It's a bit like it's like this inner secret amongst parents.
Yeah.
It's like you're like, no, I will never lie to my children.
Unless.
And then you become a parent and you're like, oh, I'm lying to my children all the time. But, you're like, I won't lie to my players. And then you're like, this troll just critically hit them.
Yeah.
And that player's going to die.
Yeah.
Do I want to do that? Again, there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
It's you just have to, use your discretion on it to decide how do you run games, what do you want to happen in it.
Yeah.
Because, if you fudge too many of them, then what's the threat?
Yeah.
Then the players can pick up on that feeling that there's no threat.
Yeah, nothing's
I will
actually
just
gonna kill
charge
us.
the troll.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go all right, I charge the troll by myself, and everyone's like, no, wait until we buff you or something like that, and you're like, no, I just charge the troll, and then the troll squashes you.
Yeah.
Then you're like,
you should have waited for the buffs.
I should probably have waited for exactly.
Yeah.
So I think
Yep.
D&D is a great intro to RPGs. I think that probably it's the reason that it's so popular is that it is the original and the best.
Yeah.
And over time, there's so many hundreds and thousands of RPGs out there that you can then just figure out what you like. Find a setting that you like. Find an RPG that falls in that setting. But I think one thing that I would love, and if anybody knows about an RPG that's like this, you can, let us know.
Yeah, let us know in the comments.
That's a good idea. Yeah. They can press the like button.
Yes, and subscribe to if you feel like it.
Is like, I haven't found like an RPG that really appeals to me in a fantasy setting.
Okay.
A fantasy setting where it's not that kind of level-based system. It's more open and fluid in terms of how you level up. I feel like a lot of the fantasy RPGs that I see fall more into that almost like a video game.
Okay.
And I'm sure there are ones out there, but there's just so many RPGs that it's hard to find. But I've always been intrigued by what would be a great RPG system to run a campaign that's like Game of Thrones.
Yep.
Like
Lord
that.
of the Rings.
Yeah. Well,
like that.
look, there's Lord of the Rings RPGs out there and things like that. But if I wanted to create my own setting, I guess I could adapt an RPG off one of those or something like that. But if I was to run my own setting, but I really wanted it to be more narrative driven or something like that, that would be an RPG that I would be super keen to play.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you, Ollie, so much for bringing a stack of books with you over from Adelaide and sitting here telling us about your 5 favorite games and where to start as a DM. So yeah.
Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. Massive thank you to all our patrons, Ollie included, for supporting us. There's other ways you can do that too without spending any money. You can like videos, share them with your friends, subscribe, check out hobbyhomies.com for links to all this stuff, join the Discord, check out Binge-Worthy Breakdown, and yeah, we hope you've enjoyed. See you in the next one.
See you in the next video.
Big up to the boys, Fox and Shane. Set your minds free, no locks and chains. Do what you love, roll the dice. 50-50, we cold as ice. One thing cold, but a penny town red. Can't let that shit in my head, war gaming.